4 years of college. This ordinary girl has never fallen in love once, facing the schoolboy who pursued her. But the girl is indifferent. As the best student in the whole school, her crush would be the famous scum of the school. In everyone's eyes, Carl was a playboy. Annie used to hide in the audience to watch Carl. The rain could drive everyone away, but not her, and she knew it. She knew she was in a completely different world from him. This time after school, Annie followed him quietly. As she got deeper into the forest, Annie lost sight of Carl. She was lost. She didn't know what to do. A hand touched Annie's shoulder. She screamed in terror, but then she realized it was Carl. He asked Annie why she was doing this. "Do you have a crush on me?" Annie panicked and denied it. She didn't realize that the next moment, Carl wrote down his birthday, which happened to be the password to Annie's house. Carl said he was good at hacking, so he tried to connect to his neighbors. He didn't realize the password was his own birthday. He found photos and videos of him on it. Annie had to confess, "I just like you." In the face of such an honest confession, Carl offered to spend the night together. He wanted to test Annie, but Annie refused, so he gently tugged on her necklace. Annie came up to him for a kiss, and he couldn't help it. Carl dodged it in a panic. She went home and disconnected the power immediately. But when she went to bed at night, Carl suddenly came to her bedside. Annie sat down on a chair in a panic. Carl knelt down in front of her. Annie was so aroused that she blushed. But once again, Carl chose to run away. The next day, Carl met Annie at her part-time job. He looked at the schoolboy next to him. He felt bad about it. In the middle of the night, Carl climbed into Annie's bedroom again. Annie woke up to a present. It was the latest cell phone. She gave it back, so she went to Carl's bedroom, but she was surprised when he made an unreasonable request. So Annie left in a huff. In a fit of pique, she deleted everything on her computer about Carl, and angrily closed the window, and refused to let Carl climb in again. Carl tried to make things right, but he didn't know what to do. So when he saw Annie, he sent the pictures over. So Annie went straight to Carl's house. But Carl was having a pool party at the moment. He didn't care that she was there. And just as she was about to leave this sad place, Carl jumped into the water with her in his arms, and the two of them looked at each other in the water. And that's how the conflict was easily resolved. Carl, as the heir to the future group, his father wouldn't allow him to have real feelings for women. Annie paralyzed herself with alcohol. She collapsed on a deserted street, so Carl took her home. Annie begged him not to leave her. Carl didn't think she'd remember the night, so he talked about the pain in his heart. It turned out that when he was very young, he found out that his mother was with another man. He told his father about it, but he didn't care. Since then, Carl was very resistant to love. A few days later, Carl pulled up his black t-shirt, with the name of his favorite girl on it. Annie couldn't help but smile. Carl approached Annie and apologized. Annie finally relented, and agreed to go to the dance on Saturday night. Saturday night, Carl took Annie to the top of the group's building. This was Carl's secret base. The relationship was official. Soon after, he took Annie to a family dinner. But there was contempt and disdain in her parents' eyes. Annie didn't take it too seriously. But the next moment, she saw her mother working as a waitress. This was a deliberate act by Carl's father, to humiliate Annie. When Carl came after her, Annie slapped him across the face. As she was about to leave, Annie asked Carl if he ever loved her, until the elevator closed. Carl didn't give her an answer. Annie didn't want to end her first love so hastily. She texted Carl. She wanted him to go to prom. Carl was stopped by the school bully. He told Carl to leave Annie forever. The two fought outside. Carl fell into the pool. He was struggling in the pool. Annie ran to his aid, but Carl fell into a coma. Carl's father yelled at Annie. Annie didn't get angry. She stayed by Carl's bedside as the days passed, perhaps seeing Annie's sincerity, and Carl's parents agreed. When Carl woke up, the first thing he saw was Annie. There were no more obstacles between them, and they enjoyed their love.